You have a pension decision to make, and I'm going to help you make it in 10 minutes. You're wondering right now, what is going to put more money into my pocket? Is it taking the lump sum distribution, or is it taking the annuity distribution? Both have their benefits, and especially a lump sum, because when you take that, you can go, well, this is pretty cool. I can take it and invest in whatever I want. And if God forbid something happened to me tomorrow, my heirs inherit all of this money. Now, with the annuity, it also feels nice because you go, well, I get this guaranteed income for the rest of my life, and there's different options there. Does your spouse get 100% if something happens to you? Do they get 50%? Is it worth the trade-off of that? I'm going to help walk you through how to think through a pension decision, and I'm going to actually show you one I did with a client. So, welcome back to the Early Retirement Podcast. I am your host, Taublieb. I am a certified financial planner. I am the host of the Early Retirement Podcast that you're listening to right now, and I'm the vice president here at Root Financial Partners. So, with that being said, a few quick announcements. The first is that I am going to be showing you today, right now, an internal rate of return analysis. Some of you have never heard of this before, in the same way I went to my doctor and they told me to take a pill I had never heard of before. So it's not something that I'll go over often with clients, but I actually want to go on more of the technical side today, just so that you know if you are trying to make that decision for your pension, you make the right one, because it has a lot of different factors and it can really dictate what a successful retirement might look like for you. If you do not have a pension, you might still find this episode interesting, but you can apply a similar analysis to if you have an annuity right now and you're wondering, hey, should I get out of that annuity? It's guaranteed with all this stuff, but I don't know if the fees are worth it. And what about the surrender charges? So this is really an analysis to determine, okay, should I take lump sum or annuity? But it can go deeper if you have another product that you're wondering how to think through that. So I'm going to hop right in after I go over the review of the week. And this review comes from Cool0867, who says, anyone who's considering an early retirement, it's a must listen. Ari creates great content for his audience and truly cares about helping people achieve their dream of an early retirement. So thank you for that comment. That is a comment from the podcast app. Now, for a lot of you, what I imagine you're wrestling with, and I could be wrong, but you're going, look, right now, I have got a decision to make. If I take the lump sum, first of all, I just don't even know where would I put that money, how would I invest that money. It would be a lot all at once, so it kind of feels odd. And I like the idea of guaranteed income, so I want to take it, but I just want to make sure I'm doing the right thing and I'm not like missing one giant thing. So a few things. Number one, there is a flow chart that is in my academy that's going to help you think through, should you take the lump sum, should you take the annuity, in conjunction with what I'm going to show you right now. So I'm going to distill all of this for you, but some of you, I'd say a large portion of you, are actually listening on the podcast app, which is awesome. That's why I do this. So I'm going to continue to do that, but what I'm going to be showing today is also going to be on YouTube. So if you're going, hey, I want to be able to follow along with what numbers you're showing, because there are going to be a lot of numbers, you can go to YouTube and you can see exactly what I'm going to be showing. I'm going to explain it, so you don't need to be on YouTube, but just want to give you guys that option. So I'm going to hop right in. This is a pension analysis that I just did for a client. So what you're going to see on my screen right now is this person who has the option. They have the option. Now, this person's single, so they're not worrying about their heirs, but I'm going to pretend what if they did in a second. This person's single and they don't have any children, and so they're wondering, what do I do? Should I take this pension that's going to guarantee me $1,081 every month for the rest of my life? There's no cost of living adjustment, so it's just $1,081 every month for the next 50 years, if they live 50 years, or $179,000 immediately. And by the way, big confusion here for a lot of people. If you take that lump sum amount, you do not want to take that money and put it into your bank account, because you'd have to pay taxes, a lot of taxes. All of that would be taxed. So what you do is you move that money to an IRA. An IRA pre-tax account. So you would have that option. So just to be clear, don't move it to a brokerage account or take it as cash. I've only seen that once where someone did it on accident and they paid 40% taxes on that $179,000. Except theirs wasn't $179,000, it was $800,000. You don't want to do that. So Only saw it once, and we were able to amend it due to paperwork stuff. So if you know who you are and you're listening to this, they're laughing back going, oh my gosh, I can't believe that would have been a big mistake. So I know a lot of my clients are still listening to the episodes here. So here's what's called an internal rate of return analysis. So option one on the column C here, and I'm going to explain it if you're just on the app, if you're just listening to the podcast, is $179,000. That's their option of just taking it all at once, or $12,972 every single year forever. So what you're going to see on the right is what's called the internal rate of return. This is saying what is the return you received each year. So let's assume after 1 year you pass away. So you just say, I'm going to take the annuity, but then you pass away. Your internal rate of return is negative 92.75%. Why? Well, what happened is you received the $12,972 and that's it. You passed away. Now, in their case, they don't have a spouse. So most of you guys, if you have a spouse and it can't be children, it can only be a spouse, your spouse can be eligible for oftentimes 100%, for it's going to be a smaller amount, or for 50% or 75%, where it would be a larger amount for you until you pass away, and then it's 75% of that for the rest of their life. So more often than not, I will elect, if we are doing the annuity option, and it's based on how good a pension is, by the way, that's how you make this decision, is I will do the 100% spouse option. So it's called 100% joint and survivor if someone has a spouse and they're debating, what do I do? But let me show you the analysis. So you can see here, if they passed away after 1 year, they would have received a negative 92%, because if they take the 179,000, that could have grown. And if after 1 year they passed away, it could have gone to heirs. It could have gone to charities. It could do whatever they want. That is their money tomorrow for the rest of their life. So the way to think about this is, if we continue going down the line here, at what point does it start to make sense? At what point is it a positive return by taking the annuity option? And you can see here, year 15 is where the annuity option would be positive. You can see about 1%. So not a good return, but positive. Now, if we continue to go out here, the longer you live, the more attractive the annuity option is, because they're paying you out more and more and more. So what you can see here is, after 35 years, their return would be about 6.5%. So the question is, if this person was 50 years old and they knew, now they're not 50, they're 60. So if this person's 60, I'll use them as an example, and they live till 95, they would have gotten a return of 6.43%. So I will ask them, I'll go, do you think that's a good return? And some people go, yeah, it's a great return. I can guarantee if I live for 35 years, I will get a 6.43% return. Like, that's pretty awesome. And I'll say, it is, but yours is not accounting for inflation. So that $1,081 a month, that is not rising with inflation. So really, even though this says 6.43%, it's really not 6.5%, let's call it. It's really more like 3.5%, because inflation is also going and growing. And let's assume it's growing at 3%. Well, if 6.5% is your return on paper and inflation is 3%, we have to subtract that. So 6.5% minus the 3%. So now you're working with 3.5% as your real return, your inflation adjusted return. So this is not an example where I would say, let's take the annuity option, especially because that lump sum of $179,000, well, I just know, if we're looking at markets historically, you can do a whole lot better than 6.5% average over 35 years. So on the next page that I'm going to show you guys, and once again, explaining it in case you're just listening, which is totally cool, what I want to now understand is, what would be what's called the cumulative annuity that you would have brought in over time, meaning how many dollars would you bring in if you were to add up receiving $12,972 every single year for 35 years. You would have, as a total, brought in $454,000 over 35 years. So that's pretty cool. Over 35 years, if you said, I want to take the guaranteed annuity option, you get $12,000 every single year. You add that up, you've got $454,000. Now, what we want to understand is that lump sum, how much income could that create for us while we're alive? So I'm taking just a sustainable withdrawal rate amount, And I'm applying that logic to the lump sum. So if your lump sum is $179,000, if we were to take, just starting out, let's just say 5.5%, which can be on the high end for some and low end for others, but I just want to take this just as a conservative figure here for a second. This is not similar to the 4% rule. This is a different analysis where if you're taking from the pension, $179,000 is your lump sum balance. If you took 5.5% of that in the first year, that would be $9,800. So with the annuity, you could guarantee about $13,000 in a year. And with the lump sum, you can guarantee about $10,000. So it's $3,000 less with my lump sum recommendation. Now, why would anyone do this? Well, it starts out as $9,800, or let's call it $10,000. And then what happens is it continues to grow because that $179,000 is growing every single year. So what happens is at the beginning, it's only throwing off $10,000 a year. But as it grows, by year 11, it's now beat the annuity. And now it's bringing in $13,000 a year versus $12,000. So some of you are like, well, I get that it's bringing in $13,000, but is it, I would have had a guaranteed $12,000 every year. The one difference here, and this is an important piece of the analysis, is if after 10 years you passed away and you took the annuity option, you brought in $130,000 and that's it. So $130,000 came in and then it was done so. Versus if you did the same analysis after 10 years with the lump sum, you would have brought in $112,000 total, meaning just income it generated.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Early Retirement Show. If you have a question that you want answered,
you can see here, guys, you're hearing that in live time. That was the outro of the episode starting to play immediately. So trying to interrupt my pension analysis. Okay, so sorry about that. Back to this. So that $112,000, that's the income your $179,000 would have generated in total, meaning you take $9,000 the first year, then $10,000, then $10,500, then $11,000, and so on for a total of $112,000. But if after 10 years you pass away, it wasn't just $112,000 and that's it. That $112,000 goes on to your heirs. And it could go wherever you want. So what we want to always understand is what's going to put the most money in our pockets at the end of the day. And at the end of the day, the lump sum would have brought in a total after 35 years of $600,000. And if you pass away in year 30, where there's $460,000 of value, that $460,000 goes to whoever you want. So there's a lot of value in that. Once again, in total, $460,000, that's what you created in income over the last 30 years. But then whatever is the value of the account left, you also get to give to your heirs. Versus with the annuity option, it doesn't work that way. Whatever you're inheriting, whatever income's coming in, that is great. But then when you pass away, it goes away. Unless you have a spouse. So if you have a spouse, the difference to the analysis is you want to shift the numbers. So I'm going to do it on my screen here in case you're on YouTube. So instead of this saying 12,972, what if we switch this to 11,000? Because more than likely, if you're going to take that joint and survivor option, the company that's giving you that choice, they're going to say, hey, if we're going to have to pay your spouse after this, we're not going to give you as much money because that just wouldn't benefit us. So now if you look at the return, instead of 6.5% being the return after 35 years, it's only 5%. So what you always want to do is run the numbers on your pension, because I see some pensions that all in are guaranteeing about 10 to 12%. And if I see those numbers, that's going to beat any strategy that you can conservatively look at if you're trying to invest the right way. But if you're looking at anywhere in the range of 3 to 6%, that's where I tend to say, hey, that lump sum might make more sense. Now, some of you guys, a few considerations to think of are going, look, I get that, but I'm just going to sleep better knowing I have guaranteed income. And yes, I know it doesn't have an inflation adjustment, but I'm just going to sleep better. Well, then great, you can do that. Others of you are going to go, no, I'm comfortable investing, and because of that, I think this lump sum option makes more sense. The other option, and the reason I like going through this type of example, with a pension, once your pension gets turned on and Social Security is turned on and required distributions are turned on, you might have a lot of income coming in. So If you're thinking about doing Roth conversions, you more than likely want to select the lump sum option, because once this pension gets turned on, it cannot get turned off. And what happens is that's sending you more income, which is good so you can live, but it's also filling up your tax brackets. So now if you want to do Roth conversions, you might be having to pay taxes at the next tax bracket, which makes it less optimal for you. So whether you should collect your pension lump sum or annuity is dependent on your current pre-tax balance, your comfortable, really your flexibility with investing and comfort surrounding the subject, as well as what that means for the rest of your family. So lump sum versus pension, this is just a sample as to how I would look through it. Hopefully a quick episode and gives you the insight you want on thinking through pensions. So that's it for today's episode. If this was helpful, please do like, please do share. If you want a copy of this type of analysis, it is in my academy. So in the Early Retirement Academy, you will see there's an option to create your own analysis. I've already put the code in here that I use, so you do not have to worry about going, hey, if I'm not like an Excel whiz, how am I going to be able to do this myself? So don't worry about that. It's just already in there. So this is how to think through it. Hopefully this is helpful for you guys, and I will see you guys next time.